welcome to the video. Are you ready to take notes? If you are, we're going to go ahead and get started. Before we look at the Grand Inquisitor and the absurd, let us start with some foundational science. Some of you may have wondered why I, being an English teacher, post the periodic table of elements on the classroom wall. Other than wishing I could teach chemistry, it is probably because the periodic table is the alpha and the omega of existence. Everything in the physical universe that we have discovered is on that chart. Of course, the naturally occurring elements in our world are the products of the cores of dead stars, stars which ran out of fuel and turned into supernovae, a process in which the initial hydrogen atoms are fused in nuclear reaction into helium, whose atoms during a star's burning death fuse into ever heavier elements, from lithium to carbon to oxygen to iron to gold, and so on. The original star had formed from a cloud of interstellar dust, such as the Orion Nebula. At any rate, the point is that stars die. For us, on this rocky planet orbiting a star, this could present a problem. Our sun is middle-aged. In about another 4.5 billion years, it will be dying. The Earth's waters will fizzle away, but the Earth will still exist, as it will shift farther out into the solar system to about where Mars is now. This is because the sun's gravity will become weaker as it loses mass. But without water, life on this planet will disappear. This means that all human history will be wiped out. It will be as if the human race had never existed. Now, if you want to think about this ephemeral nature of our existence on a less macro scale, think about the typical human life, the typical person who is forgotten within a generation or two or three of her death. For example, how many of us can say anything significant about our great-great-grandparents? Is it not true that within 70 years or so of our deaths, most of us will be largely forgotten? Few of us make the history books. So, all of the struggle, ambition, business, love, loss, and great books, in the end will all be forgotten as if they had never existed. And our personal existences, our own brief candles, are forgotten soon after they flicker out. This reality presents a major issue for the person who does not believe in an afterlife. This issue is called the absurd. Life is a bitch and then you die. Birth, school, work, then death after a gradual decline in faculties. What was the point? This is the question Camus, through Dr. Rieu, asks. Oran is complacent in its day-to-day routines. People try to be as successful as possible in business. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? But in the end, what really matters? For Camus, of course, the meaning is not about God or paradise or just rewards. The meaning lies elsewhere. Another famous atheist, Ivan in The Brothers Karamazov, rejects the God of his brother, the novitiate monk in training, Alyosha. Keep in mind, however, that Dostoevsky was a man of faith. However, for his faith to be authentic to him, Dostoevsky felt he needed to thoroughly vet the best arguments an atheist could make. Ivan's, quote, poem serves this purpose. Of course, Ivan's problem with God is less about the absurd than about the apparent injustice of the order of things. The several exempla Ivan narrates in detail cannot help but to gain our sympathies. Keep in mind that his is a sympathy for the devil's argument. Milton attacks this same problem in Paradise Lost, in which Satan often sounds more persuasive and sympathetic than the cryptic, rather cold God the Father whom we hear laughing in Book 3. The problem is that humans feel a need to make divine justice correspond with human justice. The fact that the world is so unjust, then, makes a man like Ivan reject God and his ways. As a novice, Alyosha struggles to rebut Ivan's argument and seems to fail to save Ivan from his atheism. For those of you with a faith in God, What would you say to rebut Ivan's argument? To summarize then, the absurd is a condition that humanity's search for meaning cannot yield any coherent model. Life's a bitch and then you die. What was the point? For Camus, this does not mean that we should all nihilistically commit suicide or go out and get loaded. Rather, as he writes in the myth of Sisyphus, we should revolt. The meaning is in the struggle itself. One must imagine Sisyphus happy, Camus writes. And for the atheist who rejects God because of the incoherence of an omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient deity allowing the tragic suffering of innocence, faith demands an acceptance of the mystery, which someone like Ivan who judges what is right empirically simply cannot bring himself to do.